I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, to liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Barron's father, Mr. Daniel Harris, will be honored in a few minutes. Thank you, Barron. Now we will hear a report out of closed session by Mr. Islam.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. In the Board of Education ratified the acceptance of the resignation of employee number 1853724, an elementary teacher pursuant to a resignation agreement effective March 3rd, 2014. The roll call vote was 5-0. And the next item in closed sessions, the Board of Education approved the request for an extension of leave of absence for classified employee number 1123224, Sandra Porter, health clerk, effective March 14, 2014 through September 12, 2014. The roll call vote was 5-0. The next item, the resolution number 13-14-52. In closed sessions, board took actions to issue notices to the following positions, starting with Associate Superintendent of Education Services, Associate Superintendent of Personnel Services, Behavior Analyst, Categorical Administrator, English Learner, Child Development Administrator, Continuation High School Principal, 1 Coordinator Teacher Resource Center, 2 Position Coordinators Professional Development, 2 positions Coordinator Special Ed, 1 Deputy Superintendent / Chief of Staff, 1 position Director Alternative Educations, 1 Director Child Development, 1 Director English Learner, 1 Director Special Programs and Educational Technology, 19 elementary principals, 6 elementary assistant principals, 1 Executive Director Program Improvement, 11 Senior High Assistant Principal, 3 Senior High Principal, High School Principal, 1 Middle School Administrator, 7 Middle School Assistant Principals, 5 Middle School Principals, 6 Program Specialists, 1 Senior Coordinator Student Welfare and Attendance, 1 Senior Director Categorical Programs, 1 Senior Director Elementary Education, 1 Senior Director Personal Services, 1 Senior Director Professional Development, 1 Senior Director QEIA Program, 1 Senior Director Secondary Education, 1 Senior Director Student Services, that they may be released from their administrative positions and reassigned to another certificated administrative positions, classroom teaching position, or other non-management certificated position for the fiscal year 2014-15 school year, or that their work year and or their salary may be reduced for the 2014-15 school year. The roll call vote was 5-0. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Islam.
I'm sorry. Yes, the resolutions is available for the public. If anybody wants to see the resolution, they're available in the reception area. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our closed session. Now we will adopt the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. O'Kelly.
Second.
Mr. Ayala. ready to, are there any pulls?
I have several pulls.
Okay, Mr. Martinez.
F1.1, F2.2, H2.1,
Slow down, please.
Frank 1.1.
I'm
Frank?
sorry.
We're doing the polls now?
Well,
Normally, no.
we want to adopt the agenda with,
Okay, I thought we did it when we got to each
Normally
section.
we do,
okay.
but it's up
Well,
to the president.
well, we can wait then.
Okay.
All right, all those, so we're ready to vote. We'll do the polls later. We're ready to vote, preferential vote by our student board member,
Aye.
vote by board members.
Aye.
Then we will adopt the agenda as read. Next are presentations, and we will start with the DSAC students and from middle schools. Okay, Micah, would you start that, please?
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Good evening, everybody. First up, we have Richard Acosta from Kolb Middle School.
Good evening, board members, acting superintendent Mr. Islam, and viewing audience. My name is Richard, and I am Kolb Middle School's ASB vice president. I wanted to let you know what's been going on at Kolb for these past few weeks. We had our Read Across America on the 28th of February, and all our clubs went to read to the elementary school kids. That was real fun. It was hard to believe that we were once small too. I felt like a giant. Our open house last week was a great success. We had our big turnout, thanks to everyone that participated. We just had our annual Miracle Minute this morning, which we did to raise money for the Ronald McDonald House. And tomorrow is our Mardi Gras dance from 3:10 to 4:30. I want to see you all there showing us what you got on the dance floor. We have our basketball championship game on March 15th. Please come out and support my Cougars. And what we all have been patiently waiting for is spring break next week. That's it for me until next time. Have a great night and an equally great spring break.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jordan Dixon from Frisbee Middle School.
Did she hear you?
I think so. They signed it. Jordan Dixon from Frisbee Middle School.
Good evening, distinguished Board of Education, parents, community members, and peers. My name is Jordan Dixon, and I am the ASB representative for Frisbee Middle School. We are busy wrapping up our third quarter with a lot of school-wide events. This Friday, we are celebrating our Pathways to Success Day and hosting our second annual Career and College Day. We will have speakers on campus providing information about new and exciting professions, as well as having presentations by our own avid students. We want to bring to our students information that is uniquely geared towards providing the tools, knowledge, and resources to students seeking higher education and professions. We even have esteemed district officials attending. The goal is to teach students that knowledge is power and that now is the time to start thinking about their future. We would also like to congratulate all of our Frisbee SRLA runners that represented the Falcons at the LA Marathon this past Sunday. 26.2 miles is no easy task, especially in 90-plus degree weather. 4 Frisbee staff members and 9 students trained diligently from September through March, training long hours after school and weekends to make it to their final destination, which was a beautiful, scenic route of Los Angeles. We thank all the runners for giving it their all. They are true Falcon champions. Also, on April 8th, we are hosting a parent safety awareness workshop that is designed to give our parents an overview of the district's safety and security program. That's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sophia Arginal from J. Middle School.
Good evening, Honorable Board of Education, Acting Superintendent Mr. Islam, and the viewing audience. My name is Sophia Arginal, and I am the ASB Vice President at J. Middle School. And in the spirit of March and St. Patrick's Day, I feel lucky to be here this evening. Last week, we held our annual open house and had an amazing turnout. Our cheer squad performed, Rialto High School Sigma fraternity was there to do a step show, and there was food for sales everywhere. Between running to buy tamales and pizza to learning how to step dance to trying to keep our parents away from our teachers to, I'm kidding. Well, let's just say it was a fun and exhausting night. We are currently running a penny drive, also known as our class warfare fundraiser. Basically, each grade level is trying to collect as many pennies as possible. Students have been looking in between their sofa cushions, underneath their car seat, and behind their ears trying to find pennies. This is just a fun way for us to get more involved for each grade level to try and earn money for the end of the year trip. So, if you have any extra coins laying around up there, you know where to find me. Remember, only pennies. Are you looking? What? Did I see a penny? Finally, the Jaguars would like to recognize one of our own's 8th grade science teacher, Mr. Kashiwagi. Mr. Kashiwagi tried out for the American Ninja Warrior contest and was selected as a contestant. Mr. Kashiwagi will be running the course this Friday in Venice Beach, and the episode will be broadcasted in August. Ooh, the beach. People drop coins there all the time. I wonder if Mr. Kashiwagi wouldn't mind picking up some while he's on the course. He'll probably be crawling on the ground under obstacles anyway. And that's it for this evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I hope you have a nice, relaxing spring break. I look forward to seeing you in April, and that's no joke.
Next, we have Andrea Succi from Rialto Middle School.
Good evening, Honorable Board of Education, Acting Superintendent Mr. Islam, and our viewing audience. My name is Andrea Succi, and I am the ASB Vice President of the Tigers of Rialto Middle School. I am really glad to be here as we just finished our 50th dance an hour ago with over 200 students in attendance. On the 24th of last month, our school hosted the second annual Take Your Parents to School Day. Moms and dads joined their children in class for their lessons. Parents were expected to use academic language and follow school rules. Only 3 cell phones were confiscated, and they had to bring their daughter to get them released. Fun was had by all, and we even had a barbecue luncheon to celebrate our new students for the day. Our BSU club is collecting old t-shirts for Links Incorporated. Last year, we filled half the truck, and we are on our way to another great collection. The Builders Club and BSU, many of them in costume, entertained first graders at Warner Elementary on Dr. Seuss's birthday. Not sure who had more fun, the first graders or us. Our open house last Thursday drew hundreds of families last week, where they competed in academic carnival-style games and enjoyed In-N-Out burgers in the warm spring-like evening. It was a great evening, don't you agree, Mr. Montes? Builders Club joined Chief Freitas from the Rialto Fire Station for an introduction to the fire department, a tour, and even played with the fire hoses. Now a public service announcement from the chief. When you turned your clocks back last Sunday, did you remember to change the batteries in your smoke detectors? Friday is Pi Day, so the math department is hosting a math fest in our NPR with math challenges, door decorating contest, and a contest to recite the most digits of pi. Guess I am out of the running on winning this one. I can only remember 3.14159. I hear the leaders are up to 35 digits. What's your number, Mr. Islam? I look forward to seeing you next month. Enjoy your spring break, although I am sure many of you have to work. I'm happy I don't. Be safe, enjoy your family and friends, and change your smoke battery detectors. Fire Chief Matt Freitas may be watching in our viewing audience.
All right.
Last up, we have Viceroy Ali from Casera Middle School.
Good evening, Honorable Board of Education, Acting Superintendent Mr. Islam, and the viewing audience. My name is Viceroy Ali, and I'm from Casera Middle School. March has been an eventful month for Casera. We have such great talent in Casera that tried out for the talent show on February 27th. Recently, we also had our student-led conference night on March 6th, where students led the conference with their parents. Do you need extra help in math? Then join us today with your family at Family Math Night. Casera hosted the District Musical Festival. The Breakfast of Champions is this Friday, March 14th. Students who follow the character traits for February, responsibility, and March, leadership, will receive a delicious breakfast. Avid is going to Six Flags on March 21st. Also, good luck to both of our undefeated basketball team and cheerleaders. Also, congratulations to Casera students by President Suntex for being one of 31 schools out of 5,000 for solving over 3 million math problems in first in math. Hope you all enjoy your spring break. Thank you and good night.
That is it.
Thank you, Micah. Next, we will move to presentations, number 2, and Mr. Ayala will do that.
The other day, I was reading in the newspaper that someone was offended because the word hero was used to label a sports figure. Perhaps hero was being stretched a bit in that context, but I can assure you tonight in this room that we have a real hero amongst us. And with that being said, Mr. Daniel Harris, would you please join me at the podium? Take a good look at this man, because this is what a hero looks like. And, you know, I know there's a lot here that I can say, but I'm going to wing this one a little bit. Because, wow, I have grandkids. And it hits my heart when I think that sometimes the kids, you know, they're eating their lunch, they're playing, they're kids, things happen. And we had a 4th grader. And that 4th grader's with us here too. Before I call her up though, she was choking on one of those chicken McNuggets. And, you know, all of a sudden people, that, you know, they look at each other, the kids, and all of a sudden panic. And she started changing colors. I'm gonna stop for a minute and invite her up. Maya, are you here? Oh. I'm gonna give you a hug. So as we continue to wing this, one of the ladies there in the noon aid said, please. Please come on up.
We want everyone in on this.
Sue, thank you. Miss Taylor looks at Mr. Harris and says, please, please, we need help. And he wasn't quite sure what was going on, but he saw the changing of the colors. And he says, I've got it, I've got it. And he said, don't worry. And so, would you like to explain from here what you were feeling at that time? If not, I can read the document.
Just, I guess at the initial call when she called me,
Mr. Harris, use the mic. Thank you.
I saw the look in Miss Taylor's eyes, and she looked like, and the screech that she made in the cafeteria, it was like it couldn't help but get your attention. So when I looked at her, I saw that she had pointed to the little girl. She said, she can't breathe. And I was talking to one of the plumbers, his name was Mikey from maintenance, and I put my desk mop down and I went over there by the young lady and I asked her to stand up. She stood up. I told her to put her hands up, and I put my hands around her in front of her, and I went 3 fingers down out of her middle of where her wishbone is at. I forget the proper
Sternum.
The sternum, right at 3 inches down underneath the sternum. I put my thumb knuckle underneath there, and I told her I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and I squeezed, and I guess it got dislodged. And just, I have a daughter. Her name is Maya. Not only is her name is Maya, but her birthday was yesterday, and my youngest daughter, Layla's birthday was yesterday, so we have some type of connection going with this.
I didn't think about this, but if I would have, I'd have brought a poem with me. And I may not have it perfect, but, you know, it's called The Signs of Success by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it's been recited many times by many people. But part of being successful is to laugh often, sing a tune, win the respect of intelligent people, sometimes just tend to a healthy garden patch. But most of all, and this is where it comes in, to know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived. And here's our hero, and here's our beautiful little girl. So happy. Bear with me. First time I've ever seen everyone in the boardroom stand up. On behalf of the Rialto Unified School District, all the board members and staff, and everyone here in Rialto, we can't thank you enough. Wow. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Take those. Those are the notes. Share them with your mom. I made it in time.
I can't say enough for you.
It's okay.
Oh, man, you know, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Now we're going to have a presentation from Henry Elementary School, and I will be doing that.
You heard it, right? You heard it.
You can come. You're gonna do that. Come on, Marion. Recently, some of our elementary and middle school students were recognized when the San Bernardino Valley chapter of the Lynx Incorporated partnered with the Rialto Unified School District in their national poster art competition. And behind me are my fellow Lynx sisters who are here to do this presentation for our students. This year's theme was Get Smart, Get Healthy, Make Health a Habit. This competition challenges our youth to use their creativity to visually communicate their goals for erasing childhood obesity through the avenue of education. Ms. Thompson here is the principal of Henry, and I'm going to let her tell you about this poster art contest because she took it seriously, and all the Lynx sisters, because she made all of us work very hard to make this happen. So I'm going to let her tell you about it, and she can read from this, or you can just ad-lib. All right.
Good evening, everybody. I am the proud principal of Henry Visual and Performing Arts Magnet School. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it into existence. And one of the things that we are trying to do is to collaborate with other schools and with my organization to make sure that art is in every elementary school. It's important that our kids understand the arts, all of the arts, the visual and the performing arts. So that is my goal. I'd like to introduce my president, who is Rhea McIver Gibbs. She is the president of the San Bernardino Valley Links Incorporated. I'd also like to introduce Josetti Fields, who is our chairperson of the arts facet. And of course, I have other links here. So what we did is we just asked other schools to join us in this National Art Poster Contest. And they came out in fashion. I think we had over 200 200 entries, and of those entries, we picked the top 25. That was awful. And then after that, then the Links Incorporated picked the top 9. And so we want to recognize those kids by giving them, we'll show you their art first, and then giving them prizes, and we'll let you know what the prizes are. Okay, we're ready.
Well, and then we have a certificate for them. Okay. So why don't we do the certificates from the school district? And then when I call your name, would you please come up to receive your certificate? And if you just stand here, because I know this is a Kodak moment for parents. They have their cameras ready. So, and then, Ms. Gibb, will you give them their art? All right. Raphael, Nira? Right up there. Where are you? First place, level 1, grade 1 through 3. Here's your certificate. Now I want you to walk over there so everyone can see it. And look at your, Jesse Hyson Peterson, come on down. Second place, grade 1 through 3. Alina Matthews. I forgot to say what school they were from. Alina's from Eubanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And she is a 3rd place winner. Yahari Patino, is that it?
Yaharia Venegas Patino.
Is she here? Or they are from Werner. Your school, Miss Gibbs? Oh, your old school. That's right. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. She is the 1st place winner, grades 4 through 6. She's not here. We'll make sure she. Oh, there you are. From Kelly Elementary, Mario Chavez. Mario, 2nd place. Come on down. Now, this is a name I get. Suhei Antonio. Suhei Antonio.
She's from Werner.
From Werner, 3rd place, grades 4 through 6. Is she here?
She's here? That's her? Oh, she has the wrong one then. She got her friend. She got her friend. You got your friend? So this one's yours?
Oh, it's her friends.
Okay.
Okay. Janelle Parker. Janelle Parker. She's from Frisbee Middle School, and she's the 1st place winner, grades 7 through 9. Ashley Morales, Frisbee Middle School, 2nd place winner. Come on down. And Trinity Hanford from Rialto Middle School, third place winners. Congratulations. Yeah, okay. And there's more. So, Ms. Thompson, come back.
Okay, I just want you to know the prizes that the students got. If they were first place, they won a $50 gift certificate from Target, and they have an art set. If they were second place, they won $25 Target gift certificate, and they also got an art kit. And finally, third place winners, they have $15 Target certificate and also an art kit. I just want to say thank you to the principals and the vice principals, and they're back there. Thank you so much for your collaboration. It was very wonderful, and next year we'll do it again.
We want the art back. You can have the prizes. You're going to keep the art. Did all the parents get a picture? We hope you did. Okay. Saida is going to take the picture and send it to you. Yeah. It's a principal to your school. Yes. Hurry up. Is your horror Vegas?
Mrs. Gilbert, can we have the Board of Education behind the students for a picture? Hey, Rian. Sure. Are they going to do this? Okay, can I just have the Board of Education behind the students?
Sure, why not? Of course.
Parents and just you guys can back up. It is a live board meeting. I'm sorry. I do want you to take the pictures, but we have to back up a little bit. The board members, if you can go behind the students. Students, you guys are doing the best job. You're smiling with your certificate, so thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, we're going to collectively. They want to take a picture.
No, we can.
Can I have the students come in a little bit closer? Thank you so much. And big smile, 1, 2, 3, and one more. I'll get the pictures too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So get the rest of the
Okay.
That feels good. So you said I didn't read the script. She wants me to go back and give some recognition, so I'll
This is all if they don't mind. I think everyone saw her. And it's safe there. So.
Okay, before we move on, I want to thank you for coming, parents for bringing your students out to receive their awards. But before we go on, I want Mrs. Thompson to make an announcement because this is related to the arts, and we want to make sure that we recognize art in our school district because many of the school districts have cut art from their program, music and art. So, Ms. Thompson, give us a 2-minute commercial.
Not even 2 minutes. So, as you know, or you might not know, that April is Jazz Appreciation Month. And what we're doing as VAPA School is to invite other schools to participate in a jazz concert. We're calling it Henry Visual and Performing Arts Magnet School Showcases Jazz Across the Ages. And we're going to have that function at Rialto High School, and I'd like to thank Mr. Ernie Ayala, the principal of Rialto High School, for allowing us to have that program at his theater. April 30th at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We have over 14 acts from all over the district, and we want everyone who can come to come and support us. We are making an effort to involve all schools in the visual arts, and we're not just talking about it, we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we move on, there are some distinguished guests in our audience that Mr. Ayala wants to introduce. They were here. She's here. All right, don't leave.
In my haste to wing it in the script, which unbeknownst to me, we had a special guest. But before I introduce that special guest, there are times when we say that we're all connected, that we're family. To lend credence to what I just said, do we have Diane
She's here.
Williams?
Yes.
Former principal of Myers Elementary. Now we got to wonder, where's the connection? Because Maya right here is connected to the former principal. This is her aunt. I think the words, lost for words at this time, but I will tell you thank you for being here. Thank you, Lord, for our hero. And Maya, you're so beautiful. And sorry that I didn't recognize you earlier.
Miss Williams, you know better. Come on to the mic. That's okay. We will understand. We want to hear you. For those of you who don't know, Mrs. Williams retired from Myers Elementary, and she worked in the district. She'll tell you how long. But she was a loved principal when she was at Myers Elementary.
Very briefly, thank you. This is unnecessary. That's why I was sneaking out. But I'm very honored to be here. Because anytime we honor anyone who does something for our children, then it is an honor. I knew Daniel Harris before he worked at Trapp. He worked at Myers at one time. He was a substitute there. And the things that I remembered most about Mr. Harris, where'd he go? I think he's out in the hall. But the things that I remembered most about Mr. Harris was his caring for children. And he was so kind to children. And he had such a love and affection. And every day, he would make some child's day special. And isn't that what we want for all of our employees? Yes. No matter what your job description, no matter what you do, you want some child to leave that day feeling validated, to feel like somebody cared about them, that someone took joy in some accomplishment they made, or asked them how their day was, or try to help them find something they lost. That was the kind of person Daniel was. And I just feel so blessed when my sister Crystal here, I'm the oldest of 10. I'm the oldest, and she's the baby. And Maya's the youngest grandchild, who we're so proud of. She's an honor student, and she's incredible. And her mom is very, very active at Trapp and the PTA, an honorary service award winner, and also works over at Dollahan. When I heard about my niece, I just was stunned. But when I heard that someone stepped forward, I was so pleased to know that the quality that I saw on the years I was here in Rialto still exists. And so I say to you, Mr. Harris, Maya turned 10 yesterday, but had it not been for you, she might not have been here today. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this little girl is going to do great things in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you, Mrs. Williams, for your kind words. And you were surely missed when you retired from this district.
Yes.
Now we will go to something number 4 on our agenda, math adoption process.
There we go.
And Mr. David Culberhouse and Andres Lunar will do the presentation. I think we need to move back.
Sorry, I was catching up with Ms. Williams back there in the back, so I apologize. It was really nice to see Mr. Harris and Ms. Williams. Great connections. But first of all, good evening, Board President Gilbert, our Acting Superintendent, Mr. Islam, our Cabinet, our staff, and our community. It's great to be here tonight. We're going to give you an overview of the math adoption process. So we're going to take you through that. And it's actually something we haven't completed. It's something we're in the middle of right now. But before I begin, the one thing I like to do when I get a chance to be up here is to give some thank yous. And there's a lot of people to thank on this math adoption process because it's been a true collaborative effort. So I want to start with our teachers. So if you can, just give them a hand. Give them a big round of applause. Not only are they taking time out of their busy schedules to do this work that needs to be done for us, a lot of them are working on our Common Core teams. If you were at the DSAC meeting today, the luncheon, you saw them over in the room. They were in teams. They were working hard. Mr. Islam got to see the work that's going on. So not only are they doing the adoption, they're working through and helping us build the Common Core to get us ready for the future. I want to thank all of our administrators. I want to thank Dr. Ed D'Souza and the entire Professional Development Center, including his staff, Elizabeth Curtis, Teresa Brown, Juanita Chan, Lauren Pedroza, Jorge Alvarez, and also to our Teacher Resource Center, Mr. Randall Kelmer and his whole staff and our educational services. And I bring up Mr. Kelmer because think about all the schools that we have in this district, and we had to order all the materials and get them there within a week. And so that's, a lot of moving of materials. So we appreciate all that he's done. And if we were short a book or two, he ran the books out there, and we're making sure that as best we can, the teachers have all the materials that they need. All right. So if you look at this first slide, beginning in November of 2013, the State Board of Education adopted the math framework, and that gave us the guidance for the implementation of the Common Core standards, and this is actually the start of our process. And I want to go back and give you a little bit of background. In California is one of 22 states that have a textbook adoption process by law. The process in California takes place on a semi-regular schedule about every 6 years. After a lengthy process, the State Board of Education determines which texts and materials that the public may adopt. And at that point, it leads us to the individual school districts to begin their own process to determine which materials we're going to look at and we're going to adopt as a district. So early in December, before winter break, Dr. Ed D'Souza, Mr. Kelmer, Mr. Luna, and myself, we all met with each of the publishers so that they can inform us of their different offerings and what they had in conjunction with the Common Core at all the grade levels, from TK all the way up to grade 12. At that meeting, we also set a date in January for the Math Adoption Showcase, which was held at the Teacher Resource Center. At that time, the publishers showcased all their offerings, including each publisher having to answer questions that were provided to them previous to the showcase. So each of the publishers were presented a set of questions that they had to answer there. Instead of us waiting to have the questions answered, those were set up and given to the publishers ahead of time. These showcase meetings took place in January, and the questions addressed not only what we want to cover with the Common Core, it looked at the special needs of all students. It's looking at how they're covering interventions, their online resources, technology, as well as meeting the various language needs of our students and our families so that they can provide support at home. So before we go further, we're gonna go back and forth between Mr. Luna and myself.
Good evening. Before I get started, I just want to second Dave with all the people that have helped us here. It's very, very, it's a big process, and that we couldn't do it without the help. At the secondary level, we had a decision to make on the pathway choice that we were going to take. This process was for teachers. It was to be teacher-driven in our mind, and the teachers were provided with some background on the two pathways that they could decide that I'd like to go through with you for a moment, if I can. Pathway number one was traditional, typically in the U.S., Common Core, the pathway of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. The pathway number two that we looked at was integrated math, typically outside the U.S., sometimes referred to as international pathway. They were given 2 weeks to go back to their sites, discuss during their PLCs, and then come to the curriculum committee meeting to finally discuss a vote on the path. Well, I can tell you that it was unanimously to transition to integrated. But before we send them back to the site, go ahead, Dave. We gave them the two pathways. As you can see here quickly, the traditional pathway has two algebra courses, which is Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, a geometry course with probability and statistics interwoven. The integrated math has three courses, Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, again with algebra, geometry, and probability and statistics each year. So the difference between two is one, it's a mile wide, an inch deep. The other one is the opposite. It's an inch wide, a mile deep. Gives the kids a deeper knowledge. The teachers were given some tasks as they returned to their sites. The math adoption in high school. Where did the teachers want to go with this? Did they want to go Common Core traditional, Common Core integrated? There were discussions on where they wanted to go. They were some essential questions, examining the standard as it builds over 3 years and integrated. I'll kind of show you a visual on that. In addition, the units of study in traditional and as opposed to integrated math. What was different? How will this help our students and our math program? Which model best gives our students a strong foundation as well as address their needs as we move into the Common Core and we prepare our kids for college and career ready? We also asked them, take a look at the future assessments. What do they look like? Which math would best serve the future assessments? Where are we with the smarter balance? Because 11th grade is still going to take a math test. Which path is better going to prepare our kids? And then, of course, we have the Casey. There's a future change in the Casey. We needed to look ahead. Does the current math path address what we might have in the Casey? Yet we don't have anything out yet, but we have some ideas. And of course, it's the piloting process. And Dave spoke a little bit about the piloting process. Which path would better prepare our kids for the Smarter Balance test and the passing of the Casey? Go ahead, Dave. Here is a visual. I know it's difficult to read, but to get it, here are the two pathways side by side. If you look at column 1, that's Algebra 1. Those are the standards that are addressed. If you look, when you move to geometry, which should normally in a high school career, you take it your sophomore year, you notice that it's a new event, I call it, because then we hit all the geometry standards. And we're still hitting the probability and statistics down at the bottom. Then the kids would move to Algebra 2, which again is a new set of standards. Well, they'll interlock, but there is a new set of standards, and it's almost like a new event. And you see right there on the column 3, there is a geometry standard there. Now column number 4 is the integrated model with Math 1. And as you can see, all 3 are incorporated. And what's the beauty of it is that we move away from this mile-wide, inch-deep curriculum for a deeper understanding. And as you notice, as they move from Math 1, 2, and 3, each standard is not a new event, but an extension of the previous learning. There's deeper learning, there's deeper understanding. There's also the point too where it spirals into as a thicker base of knowledge and deeper knowledge. That's the way we were looking at it. So teachers took this and they decided how and when we were going to move to which path we were going to move. There's also, in the Common Core State Standards, they're required 3 major shifts: focus, coherence, and rigor. Focus strongly where the standards focus. Narrow the scope of the content and deepen how much time and energy is spent in the classroom. Focus deeply on what is emphasized in the standards so that all students gain a strong, deep foundation. And again, move away from the mile-wide, inch-deep curricula to almost teach less, learn more approach. Coherence. Think across the grade levels and link the major topics. I showed you in that last slide how the standards and then in the integrated math just continue to build as we move through. Carefully connect the learning within and across the grades so that the student can build new understandings on foundation built from the previous years. Built on a solid conceptual understanding of the scope of the core content, each standard is not a new event, but it's an extension of the previous learning. It does not repeat the previous year's content, but it builds where it's applicable and gets the kids a deeper foundation. Rigor. The Common Core standards in mathematics require balance of solid conceptual understanding, procedure skill and fluency, applications of skills in problem-solving situations. Pursuit of all of these 3 requires equal intensity in time, activity, and resources. Go ahead, Dave. So we put together, and Dave mentioned the core team. I have a core team for math and English. Dave has a core team for the elementary schools. The core team, when they were given these parameters, these questions, go back and talk, what is it that you want to do? They were told that this is not an adoption, but a plan for the next 6 to 7 years in preparing our students to be college and career ready. That is the overarching #1 plan. They were to talk about the pathways proposed in the mathematics framework, which we touched a little bit on. Also, too, there was they were to talk about a decision on a middle school acceleration point. Where was that going to occur? How was it going to occur? And when was it going to occur? We're also to make a decision, obviously, on the proposed pathway for high school. Common Core traditional pathway or Common Core international integrated pathway. And also, what was the proposed timelines? How much time did they need in elementary? How much time did they need in secondary to really dig deep and understand which pathway was best for our students? And I had told them, this is teacher-driven. You are the ones there teaching the math, dry eraser to board of Elmo, however you're doing it. You're the ones there. You're the ones that are making the decision. So the math adoption, no, push it one more, Dave. You went the wrong way. There you go. There you go. One more. The Math Adoption Pilot Committee is comprised of teachers of the core team that are working also on building and loading our curriculum into the Sync solution. Additionally, each principal was also asked to recommend any additional teachers we may need for participating in the pilot. We had in the secondary, we have about 56 to 60 teachers participating in this pilot. So when David talks about Randy Kilmer having to give all these materials out, is incredible to me. It's incredible to me. And also the goal was to make sure that each and every school had a voice. Each and every teacher at the school, department-wise, had a voice in this process, and that they were the ones actually speaking. And I had shared with them, I want to facilitate the opportunity for you to make this decision. Anything you need me to change, any meeting, any more additional materials, anything else, I will provide that for you. That is secondary.
Okay, so on 2 days, kind of getting back to where I kind of left off, on 2 days in January, the elementary and the secondary pilot committees met at the Teacher Resource Center, and we had our publisher showcase demonstrations. Not only are all schools represented in the pilot committee group, we have teachers from the Common Core team, as well as we also have SEI teachers, we have RSP teachers, and we have SDC teachers. We wanted to make sure that we covered all areas so everyone got a good glimpse of the materials we were piloting. At the showcase, the teachers were provided, we gave them a Google Doc or paper or pencil to follow along with the questions, and then they were determining how they felt the publishers were showcasing their materials. After the first meeting, we gave the teachers time to review the information from the publisher, and the materials from the publisher were left for review at the Teacher Resource Center for anyone who wanted to come down and look at them. And those materials are still on display at the Teacher Resource Center, so that if anyone wants to come down at any time and then provide feedback, that option is available. Sorry. Then the pilot committee came back for a final meeting where each of the school was given one vote on the 2 publishers we would move forward with for the pilot process. The pilot committee was also provided a pilot toolkit as a way to keep data on each of the pilot programs for when we meet again in April. When we wrap up in April, we're going to meet again to discuss both of the pilot programs, and then the teachers will be able to show up with real strong data on how they felt about each of the publisher programs as we continue the conversation. Once both publishers were determined from the 2 meetings, like we said before, Mr. Kilmer had to work furiously with his Teacher Resource Center staff to get all the materials not only delivered, but ordered. So we had to work with the 2 publishers. So this wasn't just one publisher, it was 2 publishers getting all the materials, and that's student editions too, and teacher materials all out to the classrooms and ready to roll. So we truly have to thank Mr. Kelmer and his staff for the incredible effort they have made to make sure that all the materials were getting to where they needed to be, because it really is a lot of work. So right now we are amidst the adoption process. We will be meeting back in April to discuss the programs and determine our next steps according to the data compiled by each of the participating teachers. Now moving ahead, as you look above, you can find the publishers and the programs that we are piloting. Do you want to speak to your secondary? Well, no, go ahead. Okay. As secondary, at the middle school, you have Houghton Mifflin Harcourt with Go Math. You have McMillan McGraw-Hill doing Glencoe Math, and you have Pearson also Math 1. At the high school, you have McMillan McGraw-Hill Math 1, Math 2, and Math 3 integrated, and then Digits Pearson Math 1, Math 2, and Math 3 integrated. It's a little different at the elementary. The 2 that we went forward with, we have Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, which is Go Math, and we have McMillan McGraw-Hill My Math. And those were the votes that we went forward with from the teachers in the showcase.
As David mentioned, the materials are still on display. I invite the public, anyone that would like to review these materials, they're at the TRC, and we also have an advertisement that has been placed in the newspaper for parents and the public to review the materials at the TRC. That's a snippet of the Rialto Unified School District is piloting Common Core Mathematics textbooks. The district is preparing to purchase textbooks K-12. Public is welcome to view the materials and consider the adoption if you wish. To view the materials, they're on display at. We give in the newspaper, we give the address, and then also Mr. Kilmer's phone number, so they can arrange anytime they would like to go and view. Also at the school sites in the library, there's been some displays, at least at the secondaries. So Dave talked a little bit of our future dates. I just wanted to share with you what's going on in the secondary. Our first piloting process was February 18th, 2014 through March 3rd, where every teacher piloted one publisher. Now, we were piloting both publishers at the same time, they just had one publisher. On March 31st, when we returned from spring break, the teachers have already switched their books, and they'll be piloting the second publisher. And again, at the end of each one of these processes, they're going to work with the toolkit. Just this afternoon, Dr. D'Souza and I met with the secondary teachers and principals to calibrate and review how that toolkit's going to work. It's going to be on a SurveyMonkey, so we can all get it and get the data, so they can have data from every school site, and they can have make an informed decision on which route, which publisher they want to go. Also, on April 14th, we're going to get all that data. We're going to discuss its process once again, discuss the data, let the teachers and the department chairs talk one more time where are we going to go with the adoption? Which book are we doing? Give them more time at the site level, at ground zero, during their PLCs to discuss and really dig deep on where we're at with the data, with how the process went, involve more and more teachers, just get everybody's mind wrapped around which adoption we're going. On April 21st, we're going to get with the committee once again at the Curriculum Council, and at that time, each school again will have one vote for which adoption we're going to go with the secondary schools. Each school will get one vote. Hopefully they'll vote it, well, not hopefully, they will vote at school. Then their math department chair will come to the curriculum committee, even though we invite everyone to come, but the math department chair will speak for the site. And then finally for the secondary, on May 14th, Dr. Levine will bring to the Board of Education for recommendation for the adoption at that board meeting. That is our timeline. Dave, you want to do that?
And if you look, our timeline follows the same timeline basically as the secondary, except elementary is a little younger, so we're quicker, and we started a little earlier. So we started on February 11th, so we had about a week head start on the secondary, and our materials came in a little quicker too, which helped us. And so we follow the same timeline as we're now heading into Publisher 2 and getting ready to we're heading off on break, but we'll come back, we'll wrap that up, and then our discussions start in April, and teachers will be giving us feedback from their toolkit on how they're feeling and what they like. And I don't know if it was mentioned, there's been a lot of time, and we've been bringing the publishers back to really look at the online resources, especially if people are struggling with them and getting in, because we don't want to get it and then find out, well, you said it would work. Will it work? Because I know when we look at R2, we have Alex and Newton on different sides, and they're really trying to compare those. What are they saying that they have what they're saying it has, or does it work the way it's supposed to? Because those online technology resources are going to be big for our future, especially as we look, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road. Thank you for your time.
Question?
Questions?
Yeah.
There's some comments.
Could we turn the lights on? I feel like I'm talking in the movie theater here. Couple questions. I'm a little concerned because the pilots are very short. That looks like 1 week for secondary. How is the teacher supposed to make a valid decision after using a textbook for a week?
Actually, each pilot is 3 weeks long.
I saw March 31st to April 11th. That looked more like a week to me.
No, that might be a typo, Ms. Kelly, but I know that it's 3 weeks. We reviewed it today, and it is 3 weeks.
Okay.
And like I said, it might be a typo.
Because the worst thing to happen would be to make a decision quickly and then have it not really
No.
be the right one.
In fact, just to share with you, these dates have been tweaked twice for things like time in the classroom. Are they going to have enough time? Materials arriving late. But what we've assured is that there's 3 weeks for every cycle that we're going through. And I'll double check those dates.
Yeah, page 17, it doesn't look like 3 weeks.
Okay, I'll double check those dates and get back to acting superintendent, and we'll get
I
to
know
the
because
dates.
I've been through this process twice. And
Right.
I know we typically piloted materials for at least a couple of months. We usually tried to do it for a whole grading period. Why did we wait so long and now we're doing it like super fast?
May I answer? The books were not available because they're brand new. That's why some of them were delayed. They didn't even have them from the publisher because they are brand new Common Core books.
Okay.
So that was, not as good as it could have been, like you're saying.
In addition, two of the publishers that we invited in the initial 4 publishers, they didn't even have their high school books ready yet. So there was a delay in the books being ready.
And I will add, we're not the only district going through this process.
Right,
now.
right.
Most of California is really involved in this right now and trying to push forward too.
The problem, like I said at the beginning, is it's a huge expense. And then once the teachers are actually using it every single day and they start to hate it, we all know what happens then. It sits on the shelf and the teachers do other things, so. The other thing is, the 8th grade, you know, I know if we're going with the integrated approach, we would be offering Math 1 at the 8th grade. They would have the same book as the high school students for Math
Correct,
1, right?
correct.
We can't
They-
have a different test.
If we adopt one for high school, it comes down to, the
Okay.
math one will be the same one. And that was already discussed by the teachers,
Okay.
and they decided on that.
Last question, I brought this up before when we were discussing the change from traditional to integrated. What about teacher credentials? Because we have teachers who are credentialed, who can only teach through algebra, but now we don't have algebra, we have an integrated math. And they may not, the credential may not cover that. If it has algebra 2 and geometry in it, the credential would not cover that. And that's almost every middle school teacher has a supplemental, and many high school teachers have a supplemental. They don't have a pure math credential, so it presents some issues.
So Personnel Services, Rhonda Kramer has been working with Dr. D'Souza, and they've been looking at every math credential to make sure that every teacher is going to be qualified to teach the math course that they can. So the Math 1 is a class that people on a supplemental can still teach.
The
But-
state is allowing that.
Correct, but
Okay.
2 and 3 is not.
Okay.
In addition, if I may, there's also been trainings at the PDC to fill in the gaps between Algebra 1 and the integrated portion. As you can see,
Well,
it's just...
that's my other thing.
it-
If
it-
they
no,
have
we-
a supplemental, they've never taught past
They-
Algebra 1, so.
And and I don't want to say that all of them, but we have been at trainings where many of these teachers have already gone through some training to prepare us and front load us so we can be ready for the Math 1.
Okay, and so we're prepared to, at the end of all this, purchase something this year to begin using next school year, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is our hope.
Okay.
Yes, I have. Thank you, President Gilbert. How is our technology able to keep up? I know all of our sites have not been upgraded, and that is going to be a problem, or I'm hoping it won't, but we need to do something about it now.
I know, sir, that falls out of our scope only in the sense of the technology, but I know that our technology, Director of Educational Technology, has been formulating a plan. Dr. Levine?
Yeah, the technological integration in the math program, in each of the programs have an online component that students could do anywhere, and so they can log in from their house and get supplemental and practice. So they'll be able to do that at school and at home. And then at some point, if we go to one-to-one devices, which many districts are considering in the future, they'll be able to use that as well. So we're excited, and as one of the directors stated, the teachers are really looking closely at the technological portion because both publishers speak very highly of their own program, and we want to make sure it has everything they say it does.
And we've also been looking at, as issues come up, like certain videos won't play, we're trying to figure out, is that our filter, or is it their program, or is it browser issues? And a lot of times it ends up being browser issues.
Yes.
And so we're having to really look at those things, because we want to make sure that we're not also filtering out stuff that they need to use.
Okay. Please keep us up to date as to any technology issues that are brought to your attention, or Dr. Levine to your attention. That way, Mr. Islam can get on it right away, because if we're going to start rolling it out, we're going to need everything quick, and technology takes a while. There, as you know, the ordering process, they still have to build things at Cisco or the other manufacturers. So while we have the money, now's the time to do it.
Mr. Ayala.
Thank you, President Gilbert. This is a comment to Dr. Levine Mohammed, and with your presence, please let us not forget that we still have Measure Y money, perhaps even a grant where we could assist with the challenges that we have ahead with the technology. School districts like Los Angeles and Coachella Valley, they've gone to the iPads. I think we could even do better than that and go with smaller laptops. And just doing some basic math here, probably about, it would be, if every kid in our district had one, it's probably about $8 million investment. But when the kids go home, they're, say, for example, 14 years old, and the teacher says, okay, you're gonna have to graph a linear equation. They don't have the vocabulary. Obviously, they can go to their computer and look up what linear equation means, review the lesson, or they have to graph it, and they don't know what y equals mx plus b means. Oh my gosh, they're lost. They shut down, they're embarrassed. But if they go home and they open up those laptops and they say, ooh, there it is right there, and someone's talking to them, they're gonna get a head start. And since we have that Measure Y, I don't know if there's room for us to invest. If not, we can maybe start writing grants. We've already had these discussions in the past. They're nothing new, but just as a reminder that let's help these kids as much as we can, and I don't see anybody arguing that, you know, this is not a good investment. So
It's just we can't use Measure Y money for it. Measure Y has to be used for what the taxpayers approved it for, unless we have money left over after all the, it's for facilities improvement.
Well-
So unless we have money left over at the end, then
See,
we
and-
can't use that
and-
money.
And maybe that's one way of looking at it too. But it's worth looking into, see if there's any kind of clauses that perhaps we can adjust so that we can move forward with our kids. And if not, you know, we've done this before. We can hire grant writers and bring in people to help us to reach our goals.
Madam President, I'd like to
Yes.
respond to Mr. Ayala's. As you know, I made a statement, we're behind in technology. Technology is driving our everything now, today's educations and classrooms. So I'm looking for all the options, and I will bring a proposal to you, not only Measure Y, maybe perhaps any potentially future bond if we need to go that route. So I'm looking for everything right now, and your point is really, I heard very clear. We need to bring our technology back to our classrooms to educate our children and bring our infrastructure, today's technology. So I'm working on it. I'll bring you the
And
report.
for many of our elementary schools, they have to have it by April 7th so they can give the SBAC test, because they do not have enough computers. So,
You're correct. Thank you. I'll bring a report back to you, and I'm working on it. On
Thank
that.
you, Mr. Islam. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Luna and Mr. Cobblehouse. Thank you very much. We will move to public comments. At this time, we will start with comments from the floor from any person wishing to speak on an item that is not on the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. The item not on the agenda, first person want to speak, Lisa Lindberg.
Thank you, Mr. Islam. Good evening, board, community members, audience. I hear my peeps in the West Wing. My name is Lisa Lindberg, and I am the president of the Rialto Education Association. I am proud to say we represent approximately 1,200 of the most dedicated and hardworking teachers, school nurses, speech therapists, and school counselors in San Bernardino County. We are committed to your district because we see RUSD as our home and our district. We know this is our community, our schools, and most importantly, our students. Despite the challenges that RUSD has recently faced, your employees have put students first and embraced your mission, your vision, and your core values to keep this district moving forward. Tonight, we present our negotiations proposal for the 2014-15 school year. Much of it is student-focused and encompasses the LCAP plan we have crafted as a collaborative committee the last few months. We invite you to look at it closely and to remember the very heart of this district, the employees who teach, provide guidance, and look out for the health and welfare of our students every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lindberg. Thank you.
Whoa.
REA in the house.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Islam.
The next item not on the agenda, Fernando Martinez. There's three people want to speak. Alan Krangle and Angelica Trevino. I hope I was saying correctly.
Good evening, everyone. Board, good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. We are here behalf on the Carter High School's theater department. I am Thespian President Fernando Martinez.
I am Thespian Vice President Angelica Trevino.
And I am Thespian Secretary Alan Icarangle.
And we would like to invite you all to watch Carter High School's play Stand and Deliver based on the movie, based on the teachings of the real-life Jaime Escalante at Garfield High School. It'll be a really wonderful play directed by Russ Miller. It will be running April 9th through the 12th, and tickets will be $8. There will be no admission after 7 p.m., so be there before 7 to ensure that you have good seats. I will be playing Mr. Jaime Escalante.
I will be playing the role of Lupe Escobar.
And I will be stage managing the theater.
Yes, and we would like each and every one of you to come and join us to watch the play. It'll be great and fantastic.
What was the date again, please?
It'll be April 9th through the 12th at Carter High School.
Oh, go Carter. Thank you.
Yeah, and we will pass out flyers. And we don't have enough flyers for right now, but there will be flyers on the front desk if anybody wants to get some. They'll be available.
It's one of the best stories. I took 250 students to see it years ago when it first came out in the theaters.
Oh, really?
Stand and Deliver, yes.
Wow. Yeah,
We had a great time.
It's a great movie. I love it.
And I met him.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for bringing that to us. Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda, Ted Carruthers.
Good afternoon, Board. Ted Carruthers. I'm currently at Trapp Elementary School. I've been in the district for about 9 years at 9 different schools, and I'm here specifically to talk about Daniel Harris. All the custodians I've dealt with at the various schools did their job, and they were individuals who did their job. When I first came on to Trapp Elementary School, after meeting the principal and my grade level, and I was heading on to my room in the A wing, in an area isolated only by my classroom, I met Daniel, and I noticed first thing, his spirit was different than everybody else's. When you think about a custodian, you think about a person who cleans bathrooms, who sweeps. When students have an accident in the classroom, when there's bleeding, you clean up, particularly the bathrooms when accidents happen there, when there's paper towels stuffed in the toilet, when there's feces left in the bathroom, someone has to come in there and clean it up. And you think about a custodian, and you just think that's all that they do. One thing I noticed about Daniel, when he first had the conversation with me, I felt he was, lack of a better word, underemployed. Based upon the skills he presented as a person and spiritually, every morning when I do yard duty, even in the late morning, I see students of all colors come up to him. They get a pound from him. They hug his leg. He tries to turn it aside because they try and catch him in vulnerable places, and he's just real funny about it. He just turns and makes sure that it's all on the up and up. And when I found out what he did with that student about making sure that they're still living, because I think about if my son, who went to Trapp, that had happened to him. You think about certificated individuals doing things like that. You don't think about someone whose job description says basically you clean. But if you look at the definition of custodian, you think about spiritually where it came from, and you talk about when parents separate, one is a custodial parent. And that person who's a custodial parent is the one who takes care of and is responsible for legally, and also the ones to protect. And one thing that's different about Daniel is that he protects those students, and some of them who don't have fathers, they come to him and they look at him as a father. And he comes to him, he does his job, has his gloves on, he's doing his task. They even volunteer to help him in the cafeteria to clean up the mess inside of there. They volunteer, they come to him, they hug him, and he's trying to do his job. And when I see that type of individual, I know he went, not the word over and beyond, that's part of his nature and his spirit. And I just wanted those here, the viewing audience, as well as the board and the acting superintendent, to understand the uniqueness of this man, and that, if possible, maybe more should be done, because a lot of questionable things have been in the newspaper about Rialto Unified. And this is something that I think will be a positive gesture to let people know we're not what you think you hear about us. We are more, and we're on our way, and we're better than you ever think we can be.
Thank you, thank you. Is that it?
That's all.
Do we have any comments on agenda items?
None.
No? None, all right, thank you. Now, number 3, comments from association executive board members, Rialto Education Association. Ms. Lindbergh just spoke. Do we have anything from CSEA or CWA? Mr. Fletcher, come on down.
Well, you're getting there, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We listen.
Good evening, Board. I'm kind of flattered because when I glanced through the agenda, I didn't see this, and I really feel that this is one way that you're going to be able to work a lot better with those of us who support what you do. And I really like the attention the teachers got a few minutes ago, and the way that we honored the man at the beginning. I think that's really great, and I'll go along with him. He should get more. So actually, as a substitute teacher, we're waiting to hear when we start negotiating, but we're looking forward to it, and we support your district. And thank you very much, Mr. Islam, for getting the badges for the substitutes. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Next, we go to item D, public hearing. None. No public hearing. Consent calendar items. All items on the consent calendar will be acted upon in one motion unless pulled by Board of Education members or the acting superintendent for individual action. Could I get a motion to approve the consent items reference E through J?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Yala. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Martinez, thank you. Now, are there any pulls?
Yes, G4 and H2.
Let's see, G4 and H2. Okay, could we address G4?
Well, it's about, approving the school plans, which is something we go through every year. But I actually, having written several school plans myself, have often wondered if anybody ever actually reads them. And if input is provided back to the principals on the effectiveness of their plans. Given the current size of our school plans, that would be an extremely time-consuming job. So it was in a discussion with somebody the other day, and they suggested, all of the site goals should be based on the district LEA goals. And why can't we try to develop a short template or something where the principals can just fill in little tweaks for their particular schools and their particular populations instead of producing these massive documents that are this thick that I don't think are really necessary. My other point was, since we have not been, so many of our schools have not been performing well lately in recent years, it seems like the plans are not effective at all. So I think we should try to think of something within the guidelines of what we're supposed to do that might make it easier to develop a very short, concise school plan that is explicit and much easier to adhere to than, the big voluminous things we do now. Do you want to say anything, Robin? Okay.
Robin McIver Brown, Senior Director of Categorical Programs, and Ms. O'Kelly, you are on point. We are going to do that with the nature of accountability and even moving towards the LCAP with still accountability, even in an unknown territory that we aren't sure of. We need to think of time as the essence for the principals. And so just as you were talking about that, we are going to I am going to work on a template where I can take those big picture items, put them in the document, and then just as you said, you were right ahead of me, and then send it out to the schools to add their own particulars to it. And then we do have a process where we review the school plans. We try to do a peer review. It happened last year, September. We need more time to do that, but we do take the attempt to do a peer review. We have streamlined it to only include the essentials, so it is about 50 to 70 pages now, but still with that, it needs to be in a way that the principals can utilize it effectively without taking so much time to develop it so that they can have time to implement it.
Right. And that's the key, is implementing it with fidelity and having it short enough that you know what's on it and what
Exactly.
you're supposed to be doing.
So we are on point with that. We hear what
If
you're
you get
saying.
that done, they will raise you to saint status.
Oh, I know. So that is our goal in Ed Services, to make sure we do that. In fact, to open the new school year with that template ready to roll for the principals.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McIver Brown. Thank you very much.
I have a poll.
Yes, Mr. Martinez?
I had two of mine answered at the very beginning. Thank you, Mr. Islam. But I do have a recommendation that we pull F2 and table that for this meeting and bring that back. It is a second reading on the revised board policy 4112.42A, drug and alcohol testing for school bus drivers. The way I read that, I had a question that it may be weakening the policy, and I said, hold on, rather than just drop it entirely, we need to revise that. And it is a second reading, so if we pull it, we can have a chance to really look it over.
Before the third reading.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We will, is that agreeable with everyone?
Yes.
That we pull item 2, F2? All right. And Ms. O'Kelly had another pull. H2. yeah.
Right. And this is with the defined learning contract that we discussed at the last board meeting. And I have my concerns because
Page 39.
at the last board meeting, well, there's a little bit of history here. I know. And I understand we're rescinding this contract, but I just wanted to explain some of the thoughts that went into it. Earlier this year, about 6 months ago, the board was asked to approve a very large contract for sink solution. And there had been no teacher input. No teachers had viewed it. No teachers knew about it. I said that the board would, needed to have input from the teachers. Well, by that time, it was during the summer, and a presentation by the owners of the program was put on at the PDC, but only 11 teachers showed up. I went to the presentation also, and the feedback I got was not very positive. However, the board was told that the majority of the teachers said they wanted the program, and the board majority approved it. Well, we were also told that it was time sensitive, which was not true. Because we're still not using the program. We approved this in August or September, and it's still not being utilized because it has to be built. And we didn't even start building it till January, and we're not going to start actually using it till next year, I guess, because it'll be next year before it's completely built. My point being that we paid a lot of money for 1 year, and we're going to be lucky to get 6 months out of it. And the board was misled by comments about time sensitivity and things like that. So the reason I bring this up is this contract again last week, we were being asked yet again to approve a sizable purchase that was to be used in the classroom by teachers with no teacher input. It makes absolutely no sense to purchase something that teachers are supposed to use if teachers have not had the opportunity to pilot it, play with it, view it, talk about it, or anything. The teachers are the ones that are going to use it. And I have firsthand knowledge that when teachers are told to use something that they've never seen and they dislike it, it gathers dust and it's a big waste of money. So that's why I'm adamant about that. And we were misled again about this contract because we were told we were getting it free for the rest of this year and we're purchasing it for next year. My fault, I didn't look closely at the dates that were in the book. So it didn't hit me until several people called me later and said, no, you were approving it for February 27th till June 30th of this year for over $21,000. It's a $70,000 a year program. We're not getting anything for free. And I personally, I can't speak for the fellow board members, but I personally will never approve a significant purchase of instructional materials or programs that is very expensive without knowing that it has gone through a committee of teachers and we have received input, and apparently we need to have that input in the form of a survey that the board can look at.
I second that.
And I also do not ever expect the board to be misled by untrue statements about anything that we are being asked to approve.
I just have, I'm sorry, for the Fleming Alliance, is that the same, is that also being rescinded for the same reason?
No, it's a different reason. Some of the scope was not covered under this contract, so we're going to bring you different proposals. So this is, after we reviewed their contract and the scope, we realized the cost did not cover the entire scope. So we completely rescinding, and the contractor understand they missed some of the scope of the project. So they, after discussion with the contractor, they realized they missed some of the scope of the project. So I'm asking board to please rescind this contract. We'll bring you revised one with the entire scope of the project.
I would just like to ask that we get a little more of the scope in our agenda, not just for board knowledge and to make sure that we're making a good decision, but also for transparency. Any community members that review our agenda, they don't just see the little short one-sentence explanation of what the contract is for. If we could get some help with that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Like for example, with these rescinding of these two contracts, if anybody looks at it tonight, they don't know what the contracts were for. So maybe just a brief explanation would help.
I agree with you, Montez, and I'll definitely do that.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Are we ready to vote now? Everybody satisfied?
That
All
was,
right. All questions answered?
Yeah, that was
E through J. E through J. Preferential vote by a student board member?
Aye.
Board members?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried 5-0. Next, we will move to K, discussion action items. Action items will be enacted in one motion unless members of the Board of Education request specific items to be discussed. May I have a motion to approve items K1 through K8?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Second?
Martinez.
Martinez, I'm sorry. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. O'Kelly. Now, are there any pulls? Ms. O'Kelly?
Yes, K3 and K7.
K3 and K7. All right. Would you address K3, please?
Well, yes, I wanted to know how much of this natural gas fueling station and relocation of the transportation yard is going to be paid out of general fund. I'm just asking because if it costs $86,000 for the environmental technical studies, it seems like this is going to be a very expensive procedure, and do we have other funding available for this?
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. We're working on the grants, some of the grants for our CNG project. This is like a groundwork.
Right.
In order to apply for the grant, we have to get everything in the scope of the grant before even you can apply. So at present time, this is like called seed money. We have to spend our general fund to get the entire scope of the project and apply for the grant. Yeah, we are not planning to spend a general fund money. Once we get the grant, we will be able to reimburse general fund.
Okay.
So
And
this
where is this grant coming from?
from the state, and also we're looking for local, and there's other options we're looking for. So there's many options that are available. So we're looking for which one best for the Rialto Unified School District.
Thank you. And the next one, Ms.
Well,
O'Kelly?
I'm a little confused about this because we're being asked to deny a liability claim, yet we have no information on what the liability claim was. On case 7.
Mr. Harris, are you here? Please, could you clarify this? Thank you.
Mr. Harris, hold on a second. Is this something that we wish to discuss in public? A liability claim with just a number?
Well, I'll let Mr. Harris respond this if you don't mind, Mr. Longchamp.
Just
Good evening.
curious.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Board President, members of the board, Acting Superintendent Islam. This is a liability claim. Mr. Martinez, you are correct. It is not something we can generally discuss in public, but what you're being asked to deny tonight is a liability claim against the district where we are, the accusations are that the playground equipment that the student was playing on was not age appropriate and a lack of supervision. The district is denying these claims, and your denial tonight would start the clock running so that within 6 months, if this claim is not followed up on, it would fall off, or it would force them to take whatever action they're going to take so that we can prepare an adequate defense.
So in short, it begins the clock.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Harris. Thank
I
you
do
very
have a
much.
poll.
There's,
I have a poll.
yes, all right, Mr. Martinez.
Page 58, K 6.1. After what we just hopefully resolved, superintendent-wise, resolution number 13-14-50 would weaken the requirements. It would ask us to waive the credential requirement for our interim superintendent. Ed Code gives us the floor. That's Ed Code 35028 and 35029. And I'm just questioning whether it's wise for us to do that.
Well, I just would like to call a point of order. I think we might have forgotten to announce the appointment.
Have we voted on that yet?
We were gonna do it outside. We were gonna do it outside.
We're still talking about, that's a discussion item, isn't it?
It's not on
The way
here.
the agenda is set up is kind of confusing, but I had requested that we take the roll call vote outside for that.
Oh, okay.
So we could do it together with item K6 if the board chooses to.
Oh, yeah, it was on the closed session.
Yeah,
agenda.
well, we just.
So we were gonna do the vote out here.
Madam President, this has been advised by the council, so how it's presented on the agenda.
From our legal counsel?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what's the decision of the board?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Mohammed Islam as interim superintendent.
I second.
Okay.
Point of order. For that to happen, we would have to waive this, and the waiver was on the table prior to the second motion.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we have to vote on the waiver.
Correct. Whether we keep it in with the second portion, the action items, or not, is what it comes down to. If you intend to appoint Mr. Islam as interim superintendent, this waiver would have to be on file. And I just wanted to point that out. We are weakening the ed code by doing so.
We're not weakening any ed code. We need to restore the credibility of the leadership of this district.
That's exactly what I'm pointing out.
Mr. Islam has a comment.
May I clarify this? And I'm speaking from our legal counsel. And it sounds like a conflicting because you're speaking about me, so I want to be honest and open to you. I'm just only speaking from the counsel perspective. Your appointment has nothing to do with the waiver.
Right.
The waiver is only giving me, expecting me do job, you're putting me in the positions.
Yeah.
Right.
This is not that, I give you the section of the ed code which govern you as a board to make that, exercise that options. And by you approving this waiver, you're simply holding me accountable to perform the positions you're willing to place me tonight. And without that, I cannot meet your expectations.
Right, and I do recall, thank you for clarifying and correcting that question. We, either or can be done first. You're right, it's not a matter of order.
Okay.
So with that said,
We will go to the motion, go back to the motion. It was moved and second. Would you please repeat it again in case our audience don't understand what's going on up here? I know, I know.
I would like to make, I make a motion that we appoint our acting superintendent, Mohammed Islam, as our interim superintendent to fill the vacancy.
And I second that.
Okay, it has been moved and second that we will appoint Mr. Islam as our interim superintendent. That's correct. All right. Now we need ready for a vote, and this will be vote by board members. And I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. O'Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Montez?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
He's been through a lot. Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
No.
And Gilbert says yes. So it's, it has been, Mr. Islam will be our interim superintendent. Now, for the waiver, this resolution will be, there's no vote on this resolution, is
It
it?
is part of K1 through
It's
K8.
part of K, so we need.
It was pulled, so we could vote on it, or if
Okay.
he's done discussing, if
I-
we're
I'm
done
done
discussing.
discussing it, so it is actually part of K1 through K8.
Okay, that's what I thought. So are we ready? Did we need to go back and vote on everything else that was in K1 through K8? This is not a vote for student board members and discussion action items.
I think we're good with everything except possibly number 6 might have to be voted on separately, I'm not
Number
sure.
6, I forgot that.
That's one Mr. Martinez brought up.
All right, yes, well, let's vote on everything else that we talked about in K1 through K8, omitting K6. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Now, number 6, adopt resolution number 13-14-50 to waive all requirements of Education Code Section 35028 for the district's interim superintendent effective August 21st, 2013.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
1 no, 4 no, 4-0. Okay. So that takes care of discussion action items, and now we will move to comments from the interim superintendent, L. Mr. Islam.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to thank the board, your outstanding leadership during this difficult time. We're going through the healing process. It's not easy for you. You are really prove yourself that you are the outstanding leader. You care for the community. You care for our students. You care for our staff. It's exemplary for me. I work many other districts with the board. I'm blessed that I have a board who care not only staff and the community and students. You prove yourself that how much you care for entire community, including staff and the students. I also like to thank you for your confidence and trust on me. I also like to thank you that you have trust and confidence to all my staff, everyone, from classroom teachers, custodian. You see the gentleman honoring tonight. And this is really outstanding, everything happening to Rialto. I call Rialto should be model districts. Under your leadership, I think we'll get there. And I will give you that confidence and trust that we as a team, every one of us, will move in the right directions to bring the districts as a model districts. And I thank you again for your support and confidence.
And now we will start with comments from our board, starting with our student board member, Micah.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Today we had our DSAC meeting. It was very, very, very good. We had it in honor of Cesar Chavez, our luncheon, where we honored some of our teachers, some of our honorable teachers that us DSAC students actually picked to present them with, I guess, an award for their present them with an award of gratitude from us as students, just to thank them for their hard work and their dedication to us and their continued help in everything that we do. I just want to thank everybody that came out today, everybody in the board and the staff, and just want to thank the teachers as well that were honored today. Also, Mr. Harris that was honored tonight. Just wanted to thank everybody for coming out as well, and wore my tie today for St. Patrick's Day. It's on Monday, so it's, just that, and have a great spring break. Thank you everybody again, and good night.
All right, thank you. Mrs. O'Kelly.
Well, I have to say, with a name like O'Kelly, I don't need to wear anything. Thank you all for coming tonight. I have been visiting schools. I'm almost done with all the elementary. During the past 2 weeks, I went to Dunn, Kelly, Preston, Morgan, Werner, and Simpson. And yet again, I want to thank those principals and their staffs, because wherever I go, I get a very warm welcome and a wonderful tour of the campus, and it's been a lot of fun. I also want to point out that I want to thank Saida and Ricardo and all of the DSAC students for inviting us to the Cesar Chavez Service Awards luncheon today. It was a really wonderful event. The DSAC students from each of the middle and high schools selected a staff member to honor, and they were presented with a plaque and a certificate from the board, and we had a delicious lunch. And our speaker was Dr. Ernest Garcia. He is the namesake of Garcia Elementary School. And you need to listen to this man speak as he talked about his childhood, growing up picking fruit, and he told us some of the terms they used back then and whatever. And then the early days in Rialto, because he was here back in the 60s. So when it was an elementary district, and our middle and high schools were part of the San Bernardino School District. So he worked with Cesar Chavez, supported Cesar Chavez in all of his endeavors, and he's had a wonderful and meaningful life, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to listen to him speak today. And I would suggest to any of the principals especially the high school, middle school principals may want to bring him in as a speaker, and he can share his story with them. It was really cool. So thank you, Micah. I attended an effective boardmanship workshop provided by the County Office of Education. Mr. Islam was there as well, and they had delicious chocolate-covered strawberries. That was too good. But the workshop was, the topic was redesigning local budgets, and it was so informative, and I'm so glad I went because the president of FICMAT, the people who conducted our audits, and they do a whole bunch of other stuff in the state. Well, he was the presenter, and he provided an excellent presentation on how the board's role is going to change, how we will be affected by the changes in funding, and the impact of districts having local control instead of control from the state down. It's going to be a whole new concept, and I'm excited to be part of this as it comes along. And I attended Myers Elementary Read Across America Day. Mrs. Knowles had a multitude of readers there at Myers. 55 kids from Eisenhower came. She had, I think, 40 employees from Target, district personnel, and she had shifts, and the adults just read to the children all day long, and it was just a wonderful event, and it was the day it was pouring down rain, but that did not dampen our spirits, pun, pun. And I'd like to wish everybody a great spring break and a very happy St. Patty's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Kelly. Mr. Montez.
Good evening. Buenas noches. Maganda apon. Those for my Filipinos, Tagalog-speaking friends. No, it's
Stop showing off.
Okay. Anyway, thank you. Anyway, I just wanted to congratulate, first of all, foremost, Mr. Islam. For those of you who don't know, there's going to be an article coming out in the paper regarding today's possible decision to appoint an interim. And our board president was quoted in the paper, and I agree with her 100%. Mr. Islam has done an awesome job getting us through these difficult times. And I'll be honest, on my own behalf, there is no one here in the district that I would trust more with him carrying that torch during the process of us searching for a new superintendent. I think I'd like to ask the board that we allow Mr. Islam to also be one of those applicants, and we open it up soon to the community and any interested prospects who would like to apply. Before we make a decision to bring in a consultant to help us with the search, I think we should also consider maybe cutting out the middleman and just, doing it ourselves, or the board considering different options. And maybe Mr. Islam can help us with some proposals for search firms and whatnot if we decide to go that route. But I just want to congratulate him again. I think he's done an awesome job, and trust is earned. I said this 3 years ago when I got on this board. Trust is earned. It is never, ever given. You don't just give away your trust just because someone told you or someone expects you to. It needs to be earned. And one of the most important things we need to do getting through some of the difficult times that we've gone through is restoring our credibility, because without restoring our district's credibility, we will not earn the students' trust and this community's trust. So there's always good things going on in our district. We've got good people, good teachers, good administrators. We've got a lot of good people doing a lot of good things, but we can't overlook our shortcomings. And we've got a lot of work to do, But this board has faith that Mr. Islam will help us get from point A to point B. And we hope that regardless of what his future positions hold here at the district, that he stay with us one way or another, whether it is as a leader or as part of the leadership. I just wanted to thank him again. I also wanted to thank Mr. Harris, Daniel Harris. I held back my tears because The same thing happened with my toddler. You know, my father actually did the Heimlich maneuver to my baby boy, and my wife was hysterical. She didn't know what to do, and you know, it brought back, you know, this just happened last year, and it brought back that sentiment again. Like, geez, you know, a child can choke, whether it's a chicken bone, whether it's a hard candy. We got to be very careful, and he really deserves much more praise than just what we can offer him for saving that child's life. Because somebody, you know, said it earlier, you know, if it was not for him, that child wouldn't be here today, and that child's going to go on to do great things in life. So I want to thank him again from the bottom of my heart. I also want to thank the San Bernardino Valley chapter of the Lynx for their presentation of the poster contest. I think that was awesome. We need more service organizations and clubs, you know, to come and show the community. This podium is for the community, you know, whether they want to ask us questions, whether they want to announce something, whether they want to agree or disagree with us. This is for the community. So I want to thank them again for the good work that they're doing with the children of our school district and our communities. I did attend open house last week at Rialto Middle School, as the DSAC student mentioned. It was awesome. They had a big old open house thing inside the gymnasium. Some of the parents were a little bit frustrated because they wanted that one-on-one with their child's teacher, you know, that they get to when they go from class to class. But it still, some of them still, with a big line of parents waiting behind them, did take that time away from their child's teacher to ask them about how they're doing in class and whatnot. But the activities was really, really nice. They had different games, they had different things going on. So I want to thank our principal, Rhea MacGyver Gibbs, for holding an awesome open house last Thursday at Rialto Middle School. Last but not least, I just want to say one of the things that Mr. Islam has been able to do since he came to this district is save the district a lot of money. And some of the things he started doing right off the bat is looking at contracts and noticing that some of the contracts weren't very fair. Some we could save money by cutting, some we could save money by renegotiating, some we could save money by eliminating because we didn't need them. And of course, that was confirmed through the recent FICMAT audits. But I do think he deserves a round of applause because he's saved us $2 million?
2.7.
2.7, but nobody's counting. But one thing some of our staff members deserve credit for, though, that before you came, one thing that the staff members deserve credit for, particularly our teachers association, our classified union association members, and you know, with their support and with me nagging, we were able to take away our Saturday school ADA recovery program from a consultant who was only leaving us 57% of the earnings of that program. We just got a recent update, so I just wanted to share that with everyone. During the 2011-2012 school year, the district paid the consultant $224,963 in fees based on the total number of students that attended. The total number, not the number of students recoverable ADA. This has resulted in an estimated savings of $449,926 over the 2012-2013 and 2013-2014 school years in fees that would have been paid to the consultant. So working with the consultant, we were only recovering 57.6% of the students in attendance, whereas we currently are recovering 94.8% of the students in attendance. So I'm really happy about that. I know our district's really happy about bringing the program in-house and letting the district and this community really benefit from that. And that's all I have for tonight. Everything else, other than that, I'm very happy to be here tonight, and I look forward to every single meeting now.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, President Gilbert. Is it true that we dropped from 96.4 to 94 point, whatever you just quoted? About $2 million we lost?
No. Our attendance went up from 54 to 94.6.
But our total ADA, our target has always been like 96.4.
Well, this is just the Saturday.
No, this is the only
Saturday
step-up
only.
program. It's a Saturday only, not district total attendance. This is only the program we serve during weekend for students that need to be recovery, yes. So what you asking, Mr. Martinez, our attendance for step-up program, which is again Saturday program, it went from 57.6% to 94.8%. It didn't go down, it went up.
Okay.
And we also saved almost $500,000 fees we could pay, possibly pay the consultant.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
You're
I'd like to thank our internal people who do that. And Mr. Montez, thank you for all your hard work on that. You know, it's one of those things where, as you can tell, the board is rebuilding, and we're going to have to, thank you. And it's not easy because we don't have an educational leader yet. We haven't flown a position. A superintendent is the educational leader, not an interim, not an acting. So the board can cast the vision, but right now, everything is so fractured at the top desk and the fiscal desk that no one man, one woman, one person can do the job that is required to pull us up. So I don't know what to say, but we're going to continue to try and rebuild and do the best. You see, you got a 4-1 board, and if that's a direction you want to go, that's okay. If not, you need to speak up.
No, it's not.
Okay,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Ayala.
President Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Well, thank you, President Gilbert. I pretty much want to echo everything that's been said without repeating. Perhaps I can share other comments, and I was thinking what I could share. Earlier, we had a lot of upper management supervisors that were placed on a list, and it's painful when you hear that there's people given notices. It almost sounds like we don't care, we're insensitive, and that's actually to the contrary. And we do care. We're here to save jobs. We're here to protect the integrity of the school district by submitting positive reports to the county. If we don't do that, immediately, we've said this before, you lose your bond rating, you'd lose $1 million overnight, and just on higher interest rates. So we understand the cause and effect there. So we're doing okay. We also have proposals. We're not going to go into details, but we want to be sensitive to these proposals. But we also want to include, you know, there's CSEA and CWA. You know, I mean, I hear stories even on substitutes. As the minimum wage goes up, a substitute teacher is going to be making just maybe a little more than a minimum wage, but expected to do what seasoned veterans do. It's not an easy job, and you have to be qualified to be a substitute teacher. So, you know, maybe it's time that we be a little more sensitive to all these areas. At the same time, we have to be prudent, just like any family, okay? You know, you have to pay your bills. You have to make sure that, you know, you're not in a deficit mode spending. And there are ways to come to the table and reach an agreement. And, you know, I'll say this. What happens? Let's just say we had this extra surplus, what happens if we say it's yours, and then next year, we're back in deficit mode because the government says we're taking away again? That's one of the questions that needs to be answered. And if people can say, hey, we're in this together, you help us, we'll help you, we just hit a field goal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ayala. Thank you. My closing comments are that, first of all, I want to reiterate the fact that we went through a very long, arduous task over the past few months, but we made a decision, and I think that we are happy with that decision and that we will move forward. As I said in the special board meeting last week, I just want to thank the community, the people who were here to just give us moral support. You really couldn't make a decision for us, but we knew that you were interested in us doing the right thing, and you're still here. That means a lot. When we look out into the audience and we see people who are dedicated to this district and they're here at board meetings, that shows that you are concerned about this district as well as the board. And I want to thank my fellow board members too. It's not easy being president of the board. But we stuck together. Although we didn't always agree with issues, but we worked together. We did work together. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
We did work together to come to a decision that we could live with and move this district forward. So I thank all of you for helping me to do the task that I had to do as president. It's not an easy task. So thank you so much for all of your support. And again, thanks to the parents and to the teachers of this district, which leads me to where I was this morning. Of course, I'm a Kiwanian, so I went to the Student of the Month program. These students come to the Kiwanian breakfast at 7 a.m. with their principals. And time again, I see these wonderful students that are being educated and honored here in Rialto. Just marvelous students. I wish that we could print their essays because they're just marvelous. The things that they do, besides doing their academic work, they volunteer, they work in their churches, they do outside work, they participate in music and so forth, and it's just wonderful. I wish that one board meeting we could just have all of the students of the month come and read their essays, because it would just make you feel so good to know what we're producing here in Rialto. So that's one thing I did, Mr. Montez. And there's something else I did that I bet you haven't done. I visited 3 of our preschools.
Oh, that's cool.
There you go.
Morris, Morgan, and Preston. And they're doing a wonderful job in our preschools because they are preparing our students for kindergarten. And it was just a wonderful experience to go with Dr. Dyson to visit these. She took me in her car and we went to visit the preschools, and I was really impressed about Morgan because one of their teachers, I think her name is Miss Marion. Is that her name? Marion Navas. Yes. She's teaching her kids sign language. I want to invite them to come to the board meeting and do a presentation because it's just wonderful to see our our preschoolers. They know what they're saying in American Sign Language. So, this is an example of a teacher going above and beyond to do what they need to do. So that's one school, 3 schools. I also went to Dunn for their Dr. Seuss program. And Friday, have been invited to Frisbee for their career day. And I think that's it as far as school visitation. I'm sorry I didn't make your celebration today, but I was just worn out. Anyway, I want to make an announcement because I know that it's getting warm. The summer's coming. Like a day like today, you think about going swimming. Your kids want to get in the pool and everything. The city of Rialto, along with the Kiwanis Club of East Rialto, is having a drowning prevention and safety day. And that's going to be on Saturday, April 5th, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Simonson Center in the city of Rialto, at the Rialto Racket Fitness Center in the pool. So the thing I want to announce, because it's open to the public, it's free, but you must RSVP by calling the city at 820-2611, extension 106. And what this is teaching your children how to be safe. And this goes into conjunction with the fire department, the park and rec department of the city of Rialto. There will be swimming lessons, raffles, water safety classes, and the children who get in the pool will be observed by lifeguards and rescue drills. So take time to make sure your children are safe this summer. So if your children need this drowning prevention and safety, water safety, then go on April 5th to this free event by the city of Rialto and the East Rialto Kiwanis. And what else did I do? It was something else I can't remember. But all of us do a lot, more than you would ever think. I know, being a school teacher for 37 years, during those 37 years, I can't ever remember seeing a school board member at my school. Because this district, we do that. Other districts, they don't. School board members don't visit schools. They come to the school board meeting, they handle the school board meetings, and they go off to do their other tasks. So I want to thank my excellent board, because they're doing a wonderful job.
And I would also like to thank you, Joanne, for your leadership through this ordeal we've been through. And, you know, there were many meetings where Joanne was the voice of reason. But we got through it together, and I really appreciate your leadership during this. Thank you.
I appreciate all of your support. Thank you very much. So with that, could we get a motion to adjourn by our student board member?
Aye.
Aye.
No. You're making a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Redo. Okay. Who do redo? I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and second that we adjourn at 9:22. All in favor?
Aye.
Board meeting is closed. Thank you.